Hello, my name is Lina Espitia and I'm going to talk about the book Test and Other Tales by Roald Dahl. Roald Dahl was born in Wales in September 1916 and he died in November 1990. He was a British novelist, writer of short stories, screenwriter and fighter pilot. Before he was a writer, he was in the Air Force and he fought in the World War II. Some of his stories were adapted for films, for example, Charlie in the Chocolate Factory and Matilda. The book that I'm going to talk about is Test and Other Tales, written in 1990. Specifically, I'm going to talk about two stories of that book. The first story is Poison. This story it's about Harry, Pope and Timber. They both live together. One day, Timber arrives to their home and finds out that Harry has a crate on his lap and he was very scared. A crate is a serpent and a crate's poison can kill a person immediately. So they decide to call the Dr. Ganderby. When he arrives to the home really quickly because it was an emergency, he starts thinking what he can do to make the crate sleep so Harry can wakes up and then they can capture the crate. They do a lot of things. They decide to anesthetize the crate so they can take it away from Harry's lap. When they do use the chloroform to anesthetize the snake and Harry wakes up, they turn on the light and they found out that there was no crate. So the doctor asked Harry if in the first place he was sure that the crate were on his lap. Harry gets really mad at the doctor and they fought. So he decided to leave the house. Basically that's the story of Poison. The second story is Mrs. and Mr. Bugsby and Colonel's Coat. And this story is about Mrs. and Mr. Bugsby. They were married for a long time. They live in New York, but Mrs. Bugsby every month traveled to Baltimore to visit her aunt. But the real reason why she traveled to Baltimore was that he had meetings with the colonel. He was a lonely man and they have sort of dates. The situation happens for almost 8 years and one day before Christmas, Colonel gave a gift to Mrs. Bugsby. The gift was a really nice coat and a letter that says that they can see each other anymore for personal reasons. So she was coming home, but she was scared because she didn't know what to tell to Mr. Bugsby. When she was on a taxi to the way home, she decided to do a stop in a pawnbroker. She left the coat there and told the man that she was going to claim it on Monday. So when she arrives home, she told her husband that she found a ticket from a pawnbroker. So they talk about it and the husband said that he was going to the pawnbroker on Monday and he was going to claim whatever it was. On Monday, she arrived to Mr. Bixby's office and found out that he claimed the ticket on the pawnbrokers. The night before, they decided that whatever the ticket held, if it was for men, Mr. Bixby was going to keep it, and if it was for a woman, Mrs. Bixby was going to keep it. So when she arrives, he gave her a neck piece. So she thinks that the owner of the pawnbrokers stole her. But when she gets out of the office, she sees Mr. Bixby's secretary and finds out that she has the code. That's the end of story. My thoughts of the book are two. The first is that for someone who is learning English, is a really good book to practice. It's easy to read, but also the vocabulary is varied. So I think for learning vocabulary or grammar, it's accurate. And second, for entertainment, I think it's also a good idea to read it. The writer is a really good writer. Also, the stories keeps you with suspense from beginning to end, and you want to know more and more each page. So I recommend it, and I think it's really fun to read.